Hello everyone and welcome to Mindful Mess. As you can see on YouTube if you're watching, I have new background again because that's who I am, but I found this more comfortable way to sit down instead of forcing myself to sit in a weird way on the ground. But yeah, that's besides the point. Today I'm actually finally gonna talk about being a woman in today's society, because this is a long-awaited episode. I've been postponing it because of personal reasons, but next week in 2 weeks there will be an episode with some life updates because a lot of shit has happened. So yeah, I really want to talk about that, but this episode will be about being a woman in today's society, because it is important to start a conversation, and I would love to start that conversation if possible. I do want to have a trigger warning because this episode will contain some sexual assault, sexual harassment stories, which can be really triggering for some people. So if you get triggered by stuff like that, I don't think this is the right episode for you. I have a lot of other episodes, so please check that out. But yeah, I just wanted to give that trigger warning. So, as you maybe heard the previous episode with my sister, where I talked about losing a parent who suffered from addiction, I wanted to start my podcast episodes from now on with a poem first. So, some ASMR. Hello. No. People on YouTube, you can see the book. It's Homebody by Rupi Kaur. It's the same one as last time because there are a lot of poems in it and I haven't discussed them all. So I'm gonna do the thing again and put my finger. Okay. We've ruined our only home for convenience and profit, neither of which will be useful once the earth can't breathe. And it has beautiful drawing. If you're on YouTube, I will show it to you. Sorry if the lighting on YouTube is a bit off. I'm sitting in the sunlight because I want to get some sun on my face. But yeah, that's the poem for today, and let's get started with this episode. So, in today's episode, I will be telling some stories, my personal stories, but also other people's stories. I did get the approval to tell these stories. They will be anonymous, which is totally okay. You should never share a story if you're not ready or anything like that. But first I want to get in some facts and some statements that have been made on social media and stuff. For example, not all men. I'm rolling my eyes, by the way, for the people who can't see. We know it's not all men, and we are not stupid. It's not all men, but it's so many men that we aren't able to tell whether someone is good or bad. Like when we are walking on the street, we immediately go in a alarm mode because you can't know what a person's meanings are and what they want from you. So we always assume the worst things, which is bad. It's really unhealthy for us to be in a state of mind where you're always scared of shit. Is this gonna happen? Is this gonna happen? And I feel like it's really important to talk about that because, yeah, it's not all men, but it's all women. And it doesn't have to be physically to be harassment or sexual assault or inappropriate behavior. It can also be mentally, or you can just use words like catcalling and stuff like that, which is awful, by the way. Don't catcall, that's just... But yeah, also on TikTok I saw the number 97% going by a lot. 97%. And that number is going up because the more you think about it, some people don't really think a lot of some stuff that has happened, but a lot of the time it's also really inappropriate. So I believe the percentage is at 100% because I've been a part of it all my friends have dealt with some stories and like events and stuff that happened to them that was not okay. So yeah, that percentage is definitely higher, which is awful. Like, man, if I come off angry or anything in this episode, I'm really sorry. Or if I say something wrong or anything like that, please correct me, because I'm here to learn, as many of you are. So if there's anything that I misthought of or I forgot or anything like that, you can always send me a message on Instagram at Mindfulness Podcast. This is not a promo, it's just the way to contact me if I misunderstood something. If you hear the cats in the background, I'm really sorry. I'm trying my best to not make them interrupt the podcast, but yeah, I can't control it. Next, I really wanted to talk about the Netflix series Unbelievable. I've watched it a couple months ago, but it is a really important one because it's based on a true story of someone who was raped at night in her apartment. And the police officer, I believe it's from Chicago, they like pushed the girl in telling the story so many times. Like, why do you do that? It's a trauma. And if you have to tell it again and again and again, I don't get why they have to do that. I understand if you have to tell the story once, but to tell it 10 times or something, I think that's really not... Yeah, I don't understand why. And these police officers pushed her into saying that she made the whole story up, that that stuff didn't happen, and it was all bullshit. Which makes me even more angry how like the police system works, and how questions like what were you wearing, why were you there, what are you doing, like always on the victim, like what are you doing, because you can do whatever you want. It doesn't give any permission to do something to you. They should ask questions like, what were they doing? What were the people that harmed you doing? What were they wearing? Don't ask that. Like, you can wear a miniskirt, you can wear an oversized sweater, it doesn't matter. It's not an excuse to do anything. So the question, what were you wearing, is really like frustrating. Just like, it doesn't matter. You can feel sexy, you can go to the club in a mini dress to feel hot. You feeling hot is not giving men permission to be inappropriate with you. You can feel hot and want to feel hot without having to worry about what men will do. And that's a really big problem, because often you will have this nice top or anything like that, and then it's a thought that I have a lot is like, oh shit, isn't this too revealing? Will men look at me? Will men do this? Will men do that? Which is a big issue, because men should behave, and men should be normal and just let you be, because I don't understand how they do that. And I really recommend, is a weird word, but this series has taught me a lot, so I'm gonna say it again. It's called Unbelievable, and it's on Netflix. Then if I look down, well, for the people on YouTube, it's because my laptop is here, and I asked some questions on Instagram, and because not everyone is ready to tell their story, which is totally fine. That is more than okay, because I would never want to push anyone into telling a story if they are not ready. Everyone's healing process is different. I just wanted to make sure you are aware of everyone's speed in healing. That's not proper English, but everyone's way of healing is different. And if someone is not comfortable talking to you about something, accept that and don't push the person into telling something, because that's actually very wrong. And you should never do that, because if you put yourself in their position, if something awful happened to you and someone is pushing you to tell it when you're not ready, when your healing with yourself first, it's a wrong way of healing because you weren't ready to talk. And that can have some big issues later on in your healing process because you were pushed into telling something. I'm gonna quickly take a sip of water. But it's really awful to do that to someone. But yeah, I asked some questions on Instagram, so I'm gonna look at the results. How are you guys doing, by the way? Like, you can always send me a message because I'm really curious to see how you guys are doing, who you are, who's listening, because I can see oh, okay, so I have the questions. So I'm gonna like tell what the question was and then the percentage that said yes and the percentage that said no, because that's all I asked, because I didn't want to push someone into telling a story, and sometimes people feel more comfortable answering a poll on Instagram. I have to say that sometimes guys would answer these, but I feel like it's only 1 or 2 people who answered the questions, so keep that in mind when saying the percentages. But I feel like it's really important to tell what the results of the poll were. So the first question I asked was, do you feel comfortable when sitting in a room full of men? 46% answered yes and 54% answered no. Personally, I think if a woman is sitting in a room full of men, we feel more uncomfortable. Personally, I would feel a bit uncomfortable. But if a man is sitting in a room full of women, I don't think we even discuss that stuff because, yeah, is he in heaven or what? You know, it's like not the same at all. Then the second question was, has a boy/man ever said something inappropriate to you? And 88% said yes and only 13% said no, which is ridiculous. And then I asked, have you ever been catcalled? There 89% said yes and only 11% said no. I also asked, do you feel safe walking home alone? 39% answered yes and 61% answered no. Do you feel like being a woman influences your career? 52% said yes and 48% said no. And Francesca, a girl from Italy, is going to tell more about that a bit further in the episode, about her experience being a woman in Italy. And then, have you ever dealt with unacceptable, inappropriate, between like physical behavior by men? 69% said yes and 31% said no. So, I mean, these percentages are saying a lot about like friends and stuff, like people close to you. And of course, it's anonymous, so I won't share that with anyone because telling a story and stuff is also having a lot of trust in someone to tell them that story. So it's really important to just listen and just be there for someone and don't be judgmental. I think that's a really important one. Don't judge someone when they are telling their story, because it can feel really bad when you're finally like ready to tell something and then you feel judged by someone. It gives this like really, yeah, it's just not good, because it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter what happened to me because people aren't taking me seriously. And I feel like that's a big problem, because you don't, even how small the thing is that happened to you, it still happened to you and you're still affected by it. And if you tell that to someone, even if it was someone just grabbing your ass on the streets, it can look small, but it has a big impact on people. So if someone tells that to you, it is a big problem because that person is being affected by it. And I think that's important to keep in mind. How big or how small the thing is, it's still affecting someone. So you should always listen carefully and be there for the person. So now I want to talk a bit about some stories, true events I've been through, and also someone else has been through something. But before that, I want to give the word to Francesca. She's an Italian girl, but I will give her the word now. And I really want to thank her for being a part of this podcast episode.
Hi, I'm Francesca. I'm 21 years old and I live in Verona, which is in the north of Italy. And today I'll be giving my point of view from Italy, what it feels and what it means to be a girl in Italy from my personal experience. I want to start saying that, in my opinion, Italy is still really far from reaching gender equality. For instance, Italy is second to last in Europe for female employment, and only one woman out of two works during her working age. And moreover, the gender pay gap is still wide. And this situation with the COVID-19 pandemic is getting even worse. In Italy, the concept of family is really, really strong because of the Vatican and the Church, but also because it is a cultural trait, an Italian cultural trait, I would say. As a matter of fact, being a girl, a woman, feels like everyone expects you to be a mother, and almost everyone thinks that if you're a woman, you need to be a mother in order to be complete. And besides this, in Italy, it is quite usual that when a woman becomes a mother, she leaves her job, and that's why half of the women in Italy are not working. The woman is kind of supposed to keep the family united, to manage the family and do everything at home. What about my personal experience? I think it happened several times that a man had some kind of bad or not okay behavior with me. To start from what I remember, I was catcalled for the first time when I was 14 or maybe even 13, I guess. I mean, from what I felt, I was just a girl walking or biking on the street. I don't even remember. But apparently some man saw something different and he felt that he had the right to yell something at me in the street and in the daylight. When I was younger, catcalling used to happen a lot because I used to walk or bike a lot, even with my friends. But I never felt like it was something serious or dangerous. Also because catcalling was and still is, in my opinion, quite usual. Once I was out with my friends and a man yelled something at us from the car, and a friend of mine instinctively yelled back to him, and he came back super angry and yelling at us. And actually, we got quite scared. And from that moment, I never answer or yell back when I'm catcalled because I know it could be dangerous, even if I'm very tempted to do it. The clubs are another place where this kind of behavior happens a lot too. In the clubs or in the bars, it's quite usual to experience, let's say, unwanted advances or flirts from men. And even if you explicitly say no, sometimes men can be very insistent. A kind of, I don't know, let's call it like this, technique that usually girls use is to tell them, sorry, I have a boyfriend. And in most of the cases, they stop bothering you and apologize. But most of the times, actually, they apologize to the boy, but not to you. And this makes me so angry. because they stop bothering you and they apologize to the boy, like if they have respect for him, because you're kind of their property, I don't know, but they don't have respect for you because you're a person. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but maybe the concept is quite difficult to understand for someone who's not used to this kind of behavior. I would have tons of other stories and things to say, but I will get boring, I guess. I hope you understood a bit what's the situation like in Italy and what it means to be a girl in Italy in the 21st century from some fragments of my experience. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Zoe, for the opportunity.
So, yes, that was really important to me to hear someone's story from another country, and hers is from Italy. So, thank you so much again, Francesca, for being a part of this podcast episode. So, now I will get into some stories. First, I'm gonna tell my stories. There are a few, like 7 or something. I don't know. It's a lot. I'm only 21 years old and it's already becoming a big list. So yeah, let's get into my stories, I guess. So the first story was when I was on a trip in Spain with a good friend of mine. It was clear daylight, so like you feel safer. Like when the sun is shining, a lot of people are on the streets. And there was this man when we were hiking that was asking the way to the beach, and I was just explaining the way because I wanted to be friendly. And I saw my friend looking at me, and you know the look your friend gives you when something is off, and you're like, is everything okay? So I was like, what is happening? And I looked down, and this man was just, jerking or touching himself or something in his pants while talking to me. And I froze. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, why would you even do that? Why would you go to a minor? Because I was not 18 yet, and that's not an excuse, but keep in mind, like, I was even underage, and you're asking me the way to the beach, and I'm trying to be friendly and telling you the way, and your thought is to touch yourself while I'm explaining the way to you. I think there's something really wrong with you then. You shouldn't even be on the streets, because if you can't even ask someone the way somewhere without assaulting them, that is your problem, and it is not okay at all to do that to someone, ever, ever. And the same day we were walking in like little city in Spain, where a man just pulled his pants down in the middle of the street and showed his penis, his dick, his wurst. I'm sorry for that language, but I get a bit angry, so that's why. So he decided to show his penis to me in the middle of the street. Then also at a party where you know the song like head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Well, in Belgium they have version head, shoulders, tits and ass, and this guy kept grabbing my tits and ass repeatedly after I turned around and looked angry a couple of times. I went outside because he wouldn't stop. Then also in Budapest with my boyfriend. So keep in mind, we should feel safe, right? When a guy is walking with us, they won't do anything. Well, that's not true, because we were just walking on the streets after a party, and this guy was talking to a girl, so you know, you feel really safe at that moment. And when passing this guy, he grabbed my boobs. My boyfriend was next to me, so the fact that in a situation where I felt really safe and really comfortable, something like that happened. It's maybe a small, tiny thing, like my boobs, sorry. That's a stupid joke. But it's just such a small thing in a moment where you actually feel safe. It's really harmful to your mental health. And then also on New Year's Eve in Bruges, like a couple of years ago, 2 things happened in one night. How lovely, right? So like past 12 or something. I was just dancing and I started talking to this guy and he was like, oh, do you want a kiss? Blah, blah, blah. Did you have your New Year's Eve kiss? I was like, no, I'm not drunk enough for this. No, thank you. And he grabbed me and started kissing me. I literally said no to you and you proceeded to grab my face and put your lips on my lips, even if I said no. I was disgusted by that. I had to leave the club for a bit because I was like, huh? Yeah, I hated it. And the same night I was dancing, I was standing like really close to someone, so I was like, well, I'm just rubbing my back to someone else's back. I wasn't thinking anything of it, but then I felt something like lower on my ass or something. I was like, that's weird. So I turned around and it was this fucking old man just holding my ass while I was dancing, which is so disgusting. And then I have a few little stories besides that, like someone in Spain just saying, like it was this foam party and I was messing around and these guys came up to me and they were like, oh, you're ugly, go away. That's something that really affected me. It's so stupid, but it really affected me. In the future when going out, I would never like try to flirt with someone or anything like that because, well, I'm ugly. Well, they said I was ugly, so why would I even try flirt with someone or something like that? But yeah, those are some of my stories. I have a lot more, but I feel like this podcast would take hours then. But I also have an anonymous story that was sent to me on Instagram, so I will read that to you. I was camping in the summer with a friend of mine. We were just eating something at our tent when we heard someone whistling or something. We looked around to see where it came from and saw a man really close to our tent jerking himself off. He wanted us to see him come and that's why he whistled. We were in shock and before we could act or do something, he was gone. We went to the receptionist of the camping. They were really serious about it and they took us to the police station to report it. They didn't take us serious at all. That's the police, by the way. They immediately asked us what we were wearing, if we were sitting there in our bathing suits. I was so disgusted by what happened, and it was a female police officer. We never heard of them after, of course. I think the story speaks for itself. Someone from England is joining the podcast. She has a mental health podcast. I will put this in screen, but I will also put it in the description of this podcast episode if you want to check her out. But I will give her the word now.
Hi Zoe, hope you're okay. So I've come on just to talk a little bit about sexual harassment or, harassment, my experiences with it, being a woman. I've had the usual, obviously being catcalled. An example, I remember walking into a club, I had a miniskirt on and someone just grabbed my crotch as they were walking up the stairs, just laughed it off, thought it was so funny. Stuff like that, which men don't really have to go through. And I do feel bad. I don't want men thinking that we're saying this is all men, because it's definitely not. I've got an amazing fiance, an amazing dad, granddad, brother, who are just amazing men. So it's a shame that some men get the rap, but it's enough men for it to be an issue. When I was living in London, I would have to walk home quite late at night, get night buses and stuff like that. And I remember once me and my friend were walking home at about 1 a.m. and 3 men came up to us and started basically saying nasty, rude things. One of them grabbed me and put his fingers in my mouth. And I just went absolutely crazy. I started throwing stones at them, started, fighting back until they ran away eventually. And there was another point where I got jumped by a few men. Me and my boyfriend at the time were walking home. And got punched in the face and they took our pizzas from us that we were carrying. We'd been on a night out and they took our pizzas and just wanted to hit a girl for some odd reason. So yeah, I've been through quite a lot of things. I think it's hard for women because we think, if we're having someone come and do some work on the house or, something like that, we just have to trust that these men aren't going to do bad things to us because we don't have the physical strength to protect ourselves. So it's really hard. Like we have to carry rape alarms. We have to be nervous when we're walking home alone. Yeah, and it's just something that I really hope that we can spread awareness for and bring up our boys to be great men and to make women feel more comfortable. I think we've come a long way, of course, but we've got such a long way to go.
Yes, thank you so much for taking part in this podcast episode. I really appreciate you, and I'm sorry for what you had to go through. But yeah, thank you for being a part of this podcast episode. And I also have a talk with Emmi, who's a friend of mine, about her thesis. She's making a thesis, and I interviewed her about it. So I will put the conversation in right now. So hi, Emmi. For the people who don't know, I met Emmi when I was on Erasmus in Estonia, and we had some lovely chats about being a woman and politics and stuff. So I really wanted to invite her on the podcast because she's making a thesis right now, which talks about like females in the parliament, but I will let her explain it a bit more. So please introduce yourself and talk about your thesis and what it's about.
Yeah, well, thank you, Zoe. Hi, I'm Emmi, and like Zoe said, I am from Finland. Did she say that? Okay, well, I'm from Finland. And I live in Helsinki, and I'm studying media management at Arts Academy of Turku University of Applied Sciences. And right now, I'm writing my thesis. I hope it's I hope it's going to be ready next week.
I hope so too.
Yeah, I really hope so too. My thesis is about online harassment that Finnish female parliament members face in their job, and I have been making this thesis for almost a year now, and I'm I'm talking now about the findings I made during the process and little bit more about online harassment in Finland and in the politics.
So during your thesis, you then asked female parliament members about their experiences, right? And do you have anything you can say about what they had to deal with or anything like that?
Yeah, of course I can. First, I would like to stress out that the whole thesis is anonymous, so no one who reads it is going to be able to connect the people and the writing in my thesis. There are 200 members of parliament in Finland, and 92 of them are female. So the gender balance is actually quite good in here, and I think that's why it's very important and interesting to research what kind of things female parliament members are facing in social media and other online platforms. Actually, there has never been as many female parliament members in Finland as there are now, so it's very nice. But I did this questionnaire last fall, and I sent it to all female parliament members, and half of them answered to my poll, and I'm actually quite happy with the amount of answers I got. And the results show that almost all of the parliament members who answered have faced online harassment on social media. Only one responded that she hasn't faced online harassment. So the number is actually quite shocking, but it's not, I have to say that it's not very surprising, and that's very sad.
It is.
Yeah.
While you were doing these questionnaires, were there any events, things that happened to them or something like that you are able to share?
Yeah.
Maybe some stuff they had to go through or anything like that?
Yeah. There are parliament members who told that when they discuss stuff like immigration and such in social media, they usually get threatening messages like anonymous trolls can threat their life or threat their children's life, which is horrible. And also the amount of sexual harassment is very disturbing. Like, there is this one parliament member. I'm going to share this story anonymously, of course. There is this one parliament member who told that she received a WhatsApp call, like WhatsApp video call, and it was coming from unknown number, and she accidentally answered the call, and then on the other end there was this guy jerking off and taking a video about it. And she had to see that. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that female politicians in Finland have to face.
That's awful. That's just disgusting.
That is a good word. Yeah, it's disgusting, and it's wrong, and it's illegal.
Yeah, it is. Don't do that. It's I just don't understand, why do you feel the need to do something like that? I just don't get it. It's leave us alone. We are not asking you anything. So just live your own life and don't do that to us. But yeah, I think that's all for our interview. And I really want to thank you to be a part of it and to talk a bit about it. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everyone for taking part of this podcast episode and telling their stories. I really appreciate it. And if you need a talk or anything like that, please contact me on Instagram. Thank you so much. You are valid. I believe you. And I will see you in my next episode. Bye.